Hello everybody and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Now today we're going to be continuing what we started last week with the Windows XP and Whistler development history video. And if you have not seen that video, I would highly recommend that you go and watch that right now. I'll have a YouTube card come up at the top right of your screen, as well as down below in the video description. But essentially what we did in that video is we took a look at, I believe, three Windows Whistler builds and the Windows Neptune build 5.1.1, and kind of went through the first phase of the Windows XP development process. And there was a lot of positive feedback from that video. I saw that you guys seem to really enjoy that video, and because of that we're going to be taking a look at three more builds today. I had a lot of you guys basically suggesting me to do more videos in this sort of style, and I actually had, I believe, one of you guys out there saying to kind of spend even more time on these builds than I was already spending in that last video, because in that last video I was kind of going and pointing out kind of the major features that would kind of be worthy to show on video, and I did 4 builds. Well, in this video I'm going to only do 3, and I'm going to try to spend maybe even a little bit more time. It's going to hopefully be around the same time frame as the last video, maybe a little bit less. That last video was about 30 minutes long. This one will probably end up being about 30 minutes long, so that'll give us about 10 minutes per build. But I have written up like a lot of stuff for each build that we're going to end up talking about. So let's just jump right in here. For this first build we're going to be talking about is 2428, and kind of what I was doing in the last video, how that I've kind of split these up into 2 separate videos, is I did the Luna theme builds in that last video, and in this video I'm going to focus on solely the post Luna theme builds, and kind of until RTM, which is the release to manufacturing, which is kind of when Windows XP is starting to take shape. And that's what these 3 builds are going to kind of, that's what you're going to see in these 3 builds. You're going to kind of see Windows XP beginning to take shape. And this build right here that we're taking a look at is actually the first leaked build that we know of that actually had the Luna theme in it. All builds prior to this that we know of only had either the watercolor theme or the old classic Windows theme, or whatever it was called before then. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to turn on this VM here, and yeah, let's just have it boot up here. Now the setup for this is pretty much identical to that of 2419, which was the last build. I'll have a little video playing here, kind of showing a brief little difference between the two. The only noticeable difference is that at the bottom right of the screen in 2428, which is this build, there is a little multicolored thing going across, kind of like on the actual boot screen here. It's kind of the same thing as we have here. They actually added that to the setup, and for some reason that wasn't in 2419. They just added that to the setup, I guess, to make it look a little nicer. So that's kind of the only way to tell these 2 builds apart. And the OOBE, or the out-of-box experience, is a little bit different as well. You'll also notice here that the welcome screen got an overhaul as well. You can see that it looks totally different. It actually is starting to look more like Windows XP. And we are starting to see this new logo in a lot of other places as well. We still do have, however, the Windows 2000 sounds on boot up. Here we are in Whistler build 2428. Now this is a pre-beta 2 build. I probably should have mentioned that before. And this has a BIOS date of January 30th, 2001. And just for reference here, 2419 had a BIOS date of January 14th, 2001. So these builds are very close in the actual time frame that they were built, only about 15 days. But yeah, you can see here that it looks at first glance totally different here. One of the things that I want to point out here is, well, first of all, the new Luna theme, but also that the default wallpaper is not Bliss. I believe at this point they were kind of trying to decide what default wallpaper that they wanted. Bliss is in here. It has been in here in the previous two builds, but ultimately I think they would decide on Bliss in like the next couple of builds you'll see here. But you can see here that this right here is the default wallpaper. I'm not sure if they had already decided on Bliss being the default wallpaper and they didn't want to actually reveal that yet to everybody until kind of further towards Windows XP's actual release. But that's something that I did want to point out. And another thing which is really interesting is that the start menu here, if I open that here, you can see that it has animations. Now this is something that Windows XP did not have. Now you can turn this off in the start menu and task bar properties. This is something that it kind of gets from Windows 2000 and even previous versions of Windows, that had this kind of slide up opening effect when you would open the Windows start menu. Windows XP ultimately wouldn't have this. You would just click on the start menu and it would open up, it would just pop up. It didn't have any sort of animation at all. Why they took that out, I'm not really sure, but ultimately they did. And you can go into the taskbar and start menu properties here. You can see that they still have the old theme, actual images here. They haven't changed these yet. But if we go over to start menu and click on customize and go to advanced, there's this box here to say animate start menu as it opens, and this was actually turned off by default, and it would kind of just do this, which is what Windows XP does. And I was kind of wondering why it wasn't working, because the build notes for this do say that there's an animated start menu, and I was wondering why that it wasn't working, and it turns out that you have to turn this on. Yeah, this is an option, and ultimately I'm not really sure why they took it out, but they did. And yes, you can go back to the older start menu if you want to. I'll just show you that here. And something of note here, if I just kind of switch that, you'll notice that the icons will kind of, all the icons from the menu here, if you go to the classic start menu, they appear on the desktop. I need to hit on apply. You'll see that they go to the desktop. All these icons from the sidebar, like My Computer, My Documents, they go on the desktop. I'm not sure if this is something Windows XP did, but it does it here to kind of make it so that you can still get to those icons and to those folders if you prefer the old start menu, which is something that is very nice. So yeah, one of the other things that I want to point out specifically about this build is this is sort of a transition period. Microsoft was slowly kind of trying to phase out these older graphics and kind of moving them towards the newer icons and everything. As you'll see kind of as I go throughout this build, that you'll notice a lot of old icons and a lot of new icons. And see, this up here is an old icon, this up here is a new icon. And as we go throughout the build, you're going to notice that, see, Windows Media Player still has an old icon, Internet Explorer and Outlook Express, these are old icons, but all these icons over here are new. So they're kind of in this sort of transition period where they're phasing out the older Windows 2000 icons and trying to bring in the new set of icons that they had for Windows XP. And even if we go into this menu here, you'll see, or no, it wasn't in this menu, I think it was in this one. You'll see that, up here, this is a new icon, but this one down here is old. So as I was saying, this is definitely a transition period for them. Also, something that is very interesting is that scroll bars and even these little pop-up menus up here, when you kind of hover over them, they have a sort of different look to them. And this can even be seen if we open up Internet Explorer here. You can see that this is actually Internet Explorer 6. It's calling itself Internet Explorer 6.0, but you can see that there's still a lot of old icons up here. There's still a lot of old icons, but they're kind of starting to get the new ones in here. These, I think all of these actually would be kind of slightly modified and changed to a newer icon in Windows XP. Something else is that how it actually manages your open windows and tabs in the taskbar is different as well. Let me just kind of get some windows open here and I can show you what I mean. In Windows XP, the buttons down here, like they had a different outline to them, and I can see why that they changed this is because it's kind of hard to tell where this button starts and where it ends. It's very faint. And what they did in the final build is they kind of made it to have like a much more like prominent outline to it, so you know you can actually tell that it was indeed like an actual button and that it wasn't part of the taskbar. As I can probably see how that this could you know, like actually confuse people into thinking that, you know, like this isn't like a button, like it's just part of the taskbar. So that's something that they changed as well. You can see how it kind of, you know, folds in. It almost has that fold in effect when you know, you like actually look like it's indicating that it's your active window. So yeah, this is kind of the early stages of the Windows XP Luna theme. And I believe in the next build that we're going to, you know, take a look at, which is only a beta 2 build. This is pre-beta 2. The next one we're taking a look at is beta 2, and all this stuff has been changed. So, you know, you can see here that this is kind of the earliest look at the Luna theme that we have. So that is something that they changed, you know, pretty fast, probably because a lot of their testers kind of saw that as a, you know, possible problem for people. Something else, if you go into my computer here, you can see that this pretty much looks final. You know, it has the same, like all the icons are here. This task thing is kind of, this pop-up is in the way, but you can see like it has the same, you know, like task in other places, like pop-up and pop-down menus. This is pretty much what it would look like in XP. If we go into the C drive, this actually would be changed. This text here, in this build it says looking for your programs, try clicking on the start menu. And this is to kind of get people to stay out of the C drive and to kind of go into the start menu to manage everything. In Windows XP and like the final RTM release, this would kind of say like these files are hidden. You know, modifying these files can cause damage to your computer. If you want to, you know, you can click on this button over here to obviously, you know, like modify the files or, you know, view the files, and you can still do that here, but it just has like a different you know, like I guess warning text to kind of warn you that, you know, like you're going to view like the system files and everything. So yeah, so that's just something that I thought was kind of interesting, something just a little bit different. And I guess what I'll do is, first of all, let me run a WinVer here to kind of show you that, again, they are slowly trying to phase out the older Whistler graphics. As this is still called Windows Whistler, they hadn't officially referred to it as Windows XP yet, so it was still called codename Whistler. Even, you know, down here and everything, and this does still have like the older, you know, Windows icon, something that would be changed very soon. And I guess what I'll show you is if we go to the log off menu, you can see kind of how it does this kind of like graphical effect where it kind of fades from the top left kind of down, and I'm wondering if that's like a graphical effect or if that's just something like that is supposed to happen, or if it's like a graphical error. I'm not really sure, but it happens anyway. And then the switch user button is a little bit different here as well. But something that I did want to point out is that the welcome screen has these kind of like, you kind of saw how like the welcome text popped out from the right. Again, like some more animations that Windows XP ultimately would not have. But this welcome screen, aside from this codename Whistler icon up here, and again from like the pop out animations and everything, this looks pretty much final. There would be like some minor you know, tweaking to it and everything in the next few builds, but ultimately it's pretty much final. So we're gonna log back on here, and for those of you wondering, like, yeah, there is a little bit of sort of gloss on the you know, start button, and that's something that would be taken out in the next few builds. But besides that, I mean, that is pretty much it for this build here. And yeah, let's just, you know, shut this down here. and I'll kind of show you what the like welcome screen does with all these like kind of animations and stuff. You can see it says please wait instead of, you know, like Windows is shutting down. That would be changed as well. So you know, again, the welcome screen would be changed. I believe in this next build, which is a beta 2 build, we're going to see the welcome screen have a kind of, you know, sort of, I wouldn't really say like an overhaul, but most of these little differences would be changed to look more like the final build of XP. Okay, so for this next build here, we are going to be jumping ahead a little bit in time to a beta 2 build. And this is build 2465. This build has a BIOS date of April 13th, 2001, so about 3 months have passed since the time of the past build. And a couple of things have changed. Number one, and you know, the reason why that I'm kind of showcasing this as a build in this video is that this build is the first build to officially call itself Windows XP. In places like the initial setup, it calls itself Windows XP. On the welcome screen here, it calls itself Windows XP. But there are a lot of places, like in the boot screen that you just saw, it says Windows Whistler. It's got that, you know, older style boot screen. And you know, here's what I'm talking about with the sort of final welcome screen. You know, is that they kind of, you know, changed all the stuff in the past build to look more like XP RTM. But yeah, you know, you can see here that this is looking more and more like XP. We got the Bliss wallpaper. It says Windows XP Professional. The gloss on the start button down here is gone, or the, you know, like whatever effect that you would call that, it's gone now. And yeah, you know, but one of the things you're going to notice about this build is that it will call itself XP in some places, and it will call itself Whistler in some places. And that is, again, this build sort of marks a transition period. Most of the icons at this point have been changed over to the new XP graphics, but at this point they were kind of changing the actual naming scheme from Whistler to Windows XP. You'll see that the opening effect from the start menu is completely gone. If you go into, you know, start menu properties here, there is no like older icons here, or like, sorry, older images. Those have been changed out. And if we go to start menu and advanced, there's no more option to animate the start menu when opening. That is completely gone. It's been taken out. And we can see that the scroll bars here and the, you know, sort of like tabs, I guess they're called tabs. These are pretty much final. I mean, there's not much more tweaking that would be done to these. These look pretty much final, at least to me. I mean, so yeah, that's, and you know, like all the buttons and everything look pretty much final. One of the things that I noticed is that by default, the start menu is in like unlocked mode, so you can like move it around the screen and everything. I'm not sure why that is. I'm just gonna lock it here. I mean, I'm not really sure why it's usually locked to the bottom by by default, but it wasn't in this build. And yeah, you know, if we open up the start menu here, you can see that the Internet Explorer icon, the Outlook Express, Windows Media Player, all these icons have been changed to their final XP, you know, icons. And if we run a WinVer here, you'll see that it now has the newer graphic. If we go to the welcome screen, you can see that all of those like pop-out animations and everything are gone. The logo has been moved from up here to down here, and it now says Windows XP instead of Whistler. And yeah, you know, the same, I mean, this again looks pretty much final to me. There are still Windows 2000 sounds in this build. I'm not sure if you noticed that on startup. It did get kind of cut off for some reason, but I'm not sure when they actually included Windows XP sounds, because I think in even the next build that we're going to take a look at, it still had Windows 2000 sounds, so it was probably a while until they had those sounds put in here. But if we launch like Internet Explorer here, you can see that it looks, you know, totally different, at least with all these buttons up here. They've been redesigned. We go to About. It still kind of has the older like About screen with the old logo and everything. I almost want to say that this actually was in XP, like this old logo and everything. I even think that that was in Windows XP. You will also notice, and this is also one of the little things that I did want to point out, is that the icons up here are still the older Windows logo. This was something that would ultimately obviously be changed to the newer one. But in all of the Windows Explorer windows and Internet Explorer windows, this icon up here is the older Windows logo. In the next build that we take a look at, that's going to be changed to the newer one. So again, sort of a transition period for Microsoft as well, as they were moving into the newer sort of generation of Windows, I guess if you want to call it, because they were kind of changing to that newer logo and design and everything. And you can also see something that I do want to mention is that in the taskbar here, it does have the sort of redesigned buttons. And something that I did mention, you know, talking about like, well, you know, like a couple minutes ago in the last build, is that, you know, you can now see obviously that this is a button, you know, and in the last build, they were kind of like the buttons, as I said, kind of blended into the actual taskbar. So they did, you know, were very quick about fixing that. Windows Media Player got an update as well. I did not show it in the last build. It's going to open up Internet Explorer for some reason, but just for reference, here's Windows Media Player from the last build. It still has kind of the, you know, old logo. It's starting to take the XP design. It's definitely a step up from the Windows Media Player and Windows ME, that's for sure, but it has like this old logo down here. It's got kind of a, you know, more like sort of gray color scheme. If we go to the new one again, you know, it's got like this newer logo. The buttons look a little bit more modern, at least for, you know, this era, which was 2001. You know, it looks like a little bit more, I guess, you know, futuristic, which is kind of cool. And it just kind of matches the you know, like design scheme for Windows XP. Windows Movie Maker got a slight update as well. You can see here, and by slight update I mean like very slight. You can see that the interface compared to 2428 looks very similar. It just kind of got like a logo change and things like that. Besides that, that is the kind of major changes in this build right here. So we're just going to turn this off here. You can see that the kind of effect that the previous build has, or had, where like it kind of did that sort of pixely effect where it went from the top left to the bottom right. Now it just has a nice fade to like grayscale effect, which would be used in the final build of XP. So we'll just turn that off. There is no, like, you know, shutdown sound either. So yeah, that is essentially build 2465. So for our last build in this video here, we're going to be taking a look at Windows XP build 2481. Now, one of the things you're going to notice about this build is that pretty much everything is final, and there's very few things that you're going to notice that aren't almost identical or are identical to the Windows XP RTM. This build has a BIOS date of May 24th, 2001, so just over a month has passed since the last build that we took a look at, which was 2465. And this build is a pre-release candidate 1 build, so this is a little bit before that Microsoft sent out the release candidate 1, which essentially what that is the sort of, or one of the final stages in an operating system, or pretty much any piece of software's you know, development. And pretty much in this phase, what they were trying to do is kind of, you know, add their finishing touches to the build, or to the operating system, and kind of ironing out the last couple of bugs that it had. So like I said, you're gonna probably notice very, you know, like maybe like some subtle differences between this and the final RTM, as I'll kind of be pointing those out. But for the most part, it's going to look very similar to the final RTM of XP. You know, just to show you that here, the setup and the OOBE and everything looks identical. It has the same, you know, like setup process. It's got like the same text, or it's kind of, you know, like introducing you to the operating system, telling you about all the new features. All of the references to Windows Whistler are gone. And the OOBE even has the XP theme, the title.wma theme. Let's just start up this build here. You will also notice that, let me just start Windows normally. You will also notice, if it'll start up here, you will also notice that the boot screen here, the older, and in my opinion, as I've said, nicer Windows Whistler boot screen is gone. It now has the Windows XP Professional boot screen, and the welcome screen and everything looks, as I'm going to probably say a lot in this build, pretty much final. And there's only a couple of things that are worth talking about. One of those, besides like the setup and boot screen and everything, are the new theme variants. If we go into the display properties here and over to appearance, you will notice that the Luna theme now has the 3 variants that it does in XP. And as I was talking about subtle differences, the names of these themes are different. They are called Default, Homestead, and Metallic. Default, I believe, would be changed to Default Blue. Homestead, which is the green theme, would be changed to Olive Green, and Metallic would be changed to Silver. So that's something that they would obviously change in the next couple of builds. Something else that is a slight bug is that this user account picture up here, if I apply one of the other theme variants, kind of overlaps itself almost up here. So that's something that is a slight little graphical bug that would have to be fixed as well. There is also, if we go into My Computer here, and if we go into local disk C, this text here is also in its final stage as well. It says these files are hidden. This folder contains files that keep your system working properly. You should not modify its contents. So this has been changed. Again, in the previous build said kind of looking for your programs, go to the start menu. It was kind of trying to get you away from the C drive. Now it kind of has this button that you can click to show the contents of this folder. This was not here before, and you actually had to click on the button on the side menu, which I guess a lot of people said that wasn't really like a good idea, because people might not know how to show the contents of the drive for those of you who actually wanted to get into the C drive. So they added this here to make it easier for the people that did want to modify or to view the contents of the C drive. Also, the Windows XP tour, in one of the like in the first video in this mini series, which was the pre-Luna theme builds, I did mention that there was one of the builds that had a Windows XP tour, and pretty much all it was kind of a bunch of like elements, kind of like music and a bunch of like flash elements kind of thrown together, and it wasn't a tour by any means. But this here is pretty much the final tour. If I launch this here and play the animated tour, you'll see that it's got the same voiceover and the same music and everything. We can skip the intro, and it's got pretty much everything. It calls itself Windows XP, but yeah, I mean it's got everything here. This is all would be final, and that is just about it for this final build. As I said, there isn't really much to talk about because everything is pretty much starting to become final, or is final already, and all the builds after this, as I said, are pretty much ironing out bugs or changing subtle differences, like the theme names or the theme variant names, like changing it from Homestead to Olive Green, and from Metallic to Silver, and from Default to Default Blue, and things like that. But that is about going to wrap it up for this final video in the Whistler XP development history series. So I hope you guys enjoyed. There was a lot of positive feedback on the first video, so I might be planning on doing this sort of style with a couple of other Windows versions. If you guys want to see that, definitely be sure to let me know down in the comments. This was a very fun video series to make. I'm hoping to have this video out by this week, so hopefully you guys should be seeing this by Thursday or Friday. But yeah, just again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all of your amazing support on the channel. If you enjoyed, definitely be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video.